I'm going to talk about a new capability in EnRoute 2023 related to nesting, particularly nesting in the ATP, and a way to prioritize the ordering of the parts when they get output to the, say, a number of sheets to make it hopefully more efficient for the manufacturing process. So I'm going to introduce it by opening a file here. A real simple file. If I select these numbers and ask the nester to nest them, let's say I'm going to nest 5 of them, of each of them, and I don't define any priority order, it'll go ahead and nest these parts, and you see that the order of the parts, the order of the nesting is chosen by the nester, and so it's working to be as efficient as possible with the nest. And so in this case, the 5s and the 4s, which are maybe a little bit bigger in area, tend to nest first. So now if I come back here, and I'm going to delete these, and I'll delete that extra layer that got created. Okay, so now if I select these and ask it to nest, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to define 5 parts for each of those, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to define a different priority. So I'm going to define priority number 5, which is kind of the highest priority for the number 1, and then I'm going to notch each of them down by 1. Okay, give that with 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to give a lower priority as the numbers get bigger. And now if I click apply, you'll see that I get quite a different nest. So in this case, the lower numbers tend to nest first, the 1s and the 2s and the 3s. But you also notice that it doesn't strictly apply that. So it gives priority to the ones that have a higher priority, and then gives a lower priority. So by the time I get to the second sheet, it's all made up of the 4s and 5s that had the lowest priority. But it's not a strict ordering. It doesn't do all the 1s first and then all the 2s. It's still trying to be efficient with the nesting process. You notice that maybe it's not quite as efficient because I've given it an additional constraint, but it's still trying to be as efficient as possible with the way that it nests and the way that it prioritizes how it nests. So anyway, what we did is we applied essentially that same concept to the ATP. And so if I go to Setup and Preferences and then go to the ATP, I have added a new nest option parameter. And that parameter has 3 choices. One is standard. So standard would be the way EnRoute has always been, where it didn't have a priority assigned to the parts when they nest. So no priority assigned. This one is telling it to prioritize based on the unit number. And so the unit number of the parts, if we want, say, starting with unit 1 and going up to unit whatever, to have a higher priority to keep the parts together by unit number, then that hopefully will make it more efficient from a manufacturing standpoint, because I'll tend to get the parts off of the machine sort of grouped generally together by unit number. And then I also have an option to divide large job nests. So this is really appropriate if we have, 1,000 parts, and sending 1,000 parts to the nester can cause problems. So this is a way to break that up into smaller groupings of parts to be more efficient with the nester. But in this case, I'm going to choose the prioritize by unit number. Then if I get into the ATP, and I'm going to load a parts file. And this has 82 parts, and you'll notice that it has different unit numbers. So there's 5 or 6 parts for unit 1, and then unit 2, unit 3, all the way up to unit 9. Unit 9 has more parts. So that's kind of my prioritization that will take place when the nesting happens. I've got the mapping and everything defined. I'm using the standard nester. I am going to create output. I'm going to create label output and put them in a subdirectory. So let's click on process. Okay, so we've nested them. Now we're going to produce labels. Okay, now the output has been created. And looks like we created, I believe, 9 sheets. So the easiest way at this point, you can see I can page through here and see the nested sheets. The easiest way for me to sort of tell what unit numbers they're associated with is to look at the folder here, and let's look at the labels that got created. So I open them up in a little photo editing program here. And so now if I page through the labels, you can see that the first label here, the first sheet, it's part of unit 1. And so as I page through the parts on the sheet, you can see they're not all the lowest units. Like this previous part here is from unit 9, but that was a small part that would actually fit on that sheet. And so the big parts are the ones we're kind of interested in because they're the ones that tend to nest first. And you notice on this first sheet they're all from unit 1. And then when I go to the next sheet, the big parts are from unit 2. So there's a unit 2. The little parts tend to kind of come from wherever, and then now I go to the next sheet, unit 3, and you see the big parts are from unit 3. So you see that the nesting was prioritized in the order of the unit number as a way to group the parts together. And then as I get through the sheets, let's get on to some later sheets. Now you see I'm up to unit 5 and unit 6 generally, unit 7, 8. And then when I get towards the end of the sheets, now I've got unit 8 and 9 here. And so you see that the prioritizing of the output was pretty successful in terms of putting unit 1 in the early sheets, then unit 2, then unit 3, with some other parts from the other units kind of mixed in as they fit on the sheets to try and be as efficient as possible. So that's a change. In the past, the nester wouldn't have paid any attention to the unit number, and so particularly on a job like this where the parts tend to be generally the same size, it would have mixed them up and not really paid any attention to trying to keep the units together. With this new option, with this new nest option to prioritize by unit number, now we have another way to sort of control the order of the nesting to hopefully make it better for the user and better for the manufacturing process to get those parts out in unit order that can then be assembled more quickly as the cutting is taking place, particularly for larger jobs. So anyway, that's prioritized by unit number in EnRoute 2023.